Hello, welcome everyone. Shauki here. Today we will discuss Weichai generator set. The material cover product knowledge, machine power line, engine knowledge, and generator knowledge. Weichai Group is an international company operating in various fields including powertrain system, commercial field, commercial vehicle, agricultural equipment, construction machinery, intelligent logistics, and marine mobility. For generator products, Weichai has a powertrain division with 14 engine platforms, with engine displacement range from 2.3 liter to 110 liters. The power output range covers 12 kilowatt up to 4,000 kilowatt. For example, the WP 2.3 engine platform has a power range of 12 to 40 kilowatt, while the 12M33 cover approximately 1000 to 1200 kilowatts. And the definition of a genset itself is an abbreviation of generator set, which refers to a system consisting of an internal combustion engine coupled with electric generator. A genset consists of an engine as a prime mover, a generator that converts mechanical energy into electrical energy, a frame that supports and mounts all components, and a control panel for monitoring and controlling the unit. For Weichai generator unit, the engine side can use a Weichai engine, while the generator can be equipped with Leroy Sommer alternator. In engine side, Weichai also has Baoduang engine. In many cases, generator from Stanford or other brand can also be supplied based on customer request. The control panel acts as a brain of the genset system. The main control module is the Deep Sea Electronics, which function as the processor, while the engine ECU controls fuel injection and engine operation. In terms of product classification, there are several unit types. Open types unit, code B. Unit with the base frame that also function as a fuel tank, code F. Low noise or soundproof unit, code L. Containerized power station, code C. Trail mount unit, code T. Automotive power station, code Q. For configuration of the WP series engine platform, Weichai standards are still used. These generators comply with Weichai standard and typically use the 6120 Deep Sea controller. The manual circuit breaker commonly use chinned. Optional equipment includes water heater, ATS, and other accessories. For M series engine, which use Baoduang engine, the standard generator brand is Leroy Sommer. The control module used are typically Deep Sea, ATS, or AMF 7320 or Deep Sea X610 for synchronous panels. The electric circuit breaker used Changshu. Optional equipment includes water heater, ATS system, and anti-condensation heaters. This information is summarized the product table issued by Weichai. Next, this is how to read the unit code. For example, WPG stands for Weichai Power Generator Set. 3000 indicates the maximum power rating with the unit in kVA. The letter B indicates an open type unit. If the letter C appears, it means a container type unit. The letter F stands for frame-mounted fuel tank. The number 7 represents the series code, indicating how many times the unit design has been updated or modified. Now let's move to machine power line. A power line generator set is a generating system designed to supply electrical power directly to a distribution line or power network. It is commonly used as a backup power source or as a prime power unit in areas when the utility grid is unstable, unavailable, or requires additional support. The system converts mechanical energy from an internal combustion engine into electrical energy through an alternator, then delivers this power to the load via power lines. The main components of a power line genset includes the engine, alternator, control panel, voltage regulation system, and protection device. The engine provides rotational mechanical power, while the alternator converts this rotation into AC electric power. A voltage regulator ensures that the output voltage remains stable despite load change, and control panel monitoring parameters such as voltage, current, frequency, and engine condition. In operation, the genset maintains a constant speed to produce a stable frequency, typically 50 Hz or 60 Hz, depending on the regional standard. When connected to a power line, synchronization system may be used to match voltage, frequency, and phase sequence with the existing network to ensure safe and reliable power transfer. Protection systems such as circuit breaker and relays are essential to prevent damage from overload, short circuit, or abnormal operating condition. Now, let us move on the detailed explanation of the generator component. The prime mover or engine is the main driving force and the primary energy source. Weichai genset use 4-stroke diesel engines. The generator converts mechanical energy into electrical energy. In general, generators are referred to as alternators or AC generators because they produce alternating currents. The engine and generator are connected by coupling, which directly connect the engine flywheel to the generator rotor. Both components are mounted securely on the generator frame, which support the entire genset structure. In addition, the control panel functions to monitor the performance of the engine, alternator, and the main power network. The DIPSI module in the control panel communicates with the engine ECU to control engine performance. The ECU or electronic control unit is the engine control module, programmed to optimize engine performance by adjusting the fuel injection rate based on input signal received from various sensors. Now, let us discuss prime mover in more detail. This is an example of a Weichai engine, the M series used Baoduang engine. The engine code shown is 12M33G1650/5. 12 indicates the number of cylinders. M is the Baoduang product code. 33 means 3.3 liters per cylinder. G indicates an application for generator use. 1650 refers to the power capacity in kVA. /5 is the code for 1500 RPM operation. The working principle of the engine consists of 4 strokes: intake, compression, combustion or power, and exhaust. During the intake stroke, the process occurs when the intake valve opens and the piston moves from top dead center to bottom dead center. The downward movement of the piston creates a vacuum inside the cylinder. Due to this vacuum, air from the intake duct is drawn into the combustion chamber. This is the intake process. After the intake stroke is completed, the air inside the cylinder is compressed. This occurred during the compression stroke. When both the intake valve and exhaust valve are closed and the piston moves from bottom dead center to top dead center. As the combustion chamber volume decreased due to the upward movement of the piston, the air inside the combustion chamber become highly compressed and its temperature increased significantly. The third step is the power stroke. When the temperature of the compressed air rises drastically, fuel is injected into the combustion chamber. The injected fuel mixes with the hot compressed air and combustion occurs. This combustion causes a rapid expansion of gases, creating high pressure that pushes the piston downward from top dead center to bottom dead center. This downward movement of the piston is what produces useful mechanical power. After the combustion process is completed, the engine enters the exhaust stroke. During this stroke, the exhaust valve opens and the piston moves from bottom dead center to top dead center. This upward movement forces the combustion gases out of the cylinder, discharging them into the exhaust manifold and then through the muffler. Now, returning to the main engine system, the engine consists of several major systems, including the fuel system, intake and exhaust system, cooling system, lubrication system, and electrical system. Now we move on to the fuel system. The fuel system used in WHIJ engines is common rail injection, which is a modern diesel fuel injection system widely used in high-performance diesel engine. Conventional fuel system will be discussed in other materials. The common rail system uses a single high-pressure fuel rail to supply fuel to all injectors in the engine cylinder. The advantage of the common rails includes improved fuel efficiency, reduced exhaust emission, increased engine performance, and reduced operating noise. The working process starts from fuel tanks, where diesel fuel is stored. From the fuel tank, fuel flow to the fuel water separator. The function of the fuel water separator is to separate water from diesel fuel based on the difference in specific gravity between water and fuel. In addition, it also functions as a pre-filter, removing relatively large contaminants before fuel enters the main fuel system. Inside the fuel water separator, there is a water in fuel sensor. This sensor detects the amount of water contained in the fuel. When the water content exceeds a certain threshold, the sensor sends an electrical signal to the ECU. Once the ECU receives this signal, an alarm is activated to warn the operator that there is excessive water in the fuel system. This sensor is electronically connected to the ECU. After passing through the fuel water separator, fuel flows to the electric fuel lift pump, also known as the fuel feed pump. This pump is electrically powered and controlled by the ECU. The fuel lift pump is usually activated at the beginning before engine start. It is also commonly activated after fuel filter replacement to ensure that fuel lines are filled and air is removed before starting the engine. From the fuel lift pump, fuel flow into the supply pump. The supply pump is generally a gear type pump. Its main function is to circulate fuel from the fuel tank toward the high pressure side of the system and to ensure stable fuel system to the next stage of the fuel system. Before entering high pressure pump, fuel passes through the main fuel filter. This filter is the primary filtration component in the fuel system. It removes fine particles that have passed through the pre-filter in the fuel water separator. Clean fuel is critical to protect high pressure components, especially injector and the high pressure pump, which operate under extremely high pressure. After passing through the main fuel filter, fuel flow into the metering valve section. The metering valve plays a critical role in regulating the amount of fuel supplied to the high pressure pump. By controlling the fuel volume entering the high pressure pump, the metering valve indirectly controls the pressure level in the common rail. The metering valve operation is controlled by an electromagnetic solenoid. This solenoid receives control signal from the ECU. Based on engine operating conditions such as load, speed, and required rail pressure, the ECU adjusts the opening of the metering valve. If a higher rail pressure or greater fuel volume is required, the ECU sends a signal to the solenoid coil so that the metering valve open further, allowing more fuel to enter the high pressure pump. Conversely, if lower pressure is required, the ECU reduces the metering valve opening. From the metering valve, fuel enters the high pressure fuel pump. This pump is mechanically driven by the engine through the timing gear system. The high pressure pump compresses the fuel to very high pressure, which can reach up to 1800 bar, depending on engine operating condition. Not all fuel entering the high pressure pump is delivered to the common rail. Before reaching the common rail, there is an overflow valve. The function of the overflow valve is to return excess fuel back to the fuel tank through the fuel return line. This helps stabilize system pressure and prevent overloading the high pressure component. Fuel that is derived from the high pressure pump flows through the high pressure line into the common rail. The common rail is a thick-walled pipe designed to store fuel at high pressure and distribute it evenly to all injectors. The primary function of the common rail is to maintain stable fuel pressure and eliminate pressure fluctuation caused by the pumping action of high pressure pump and the intermittent opening of injector. In electrical terms, the common rail can be compared to a capacitor which smooth the voltage ripple. Similarly, the common rail smooth pressure ripple in the fuel system. Inside the common rail, there are several important components. The first is the fuel rail pressure sensor. This sensor measures the actual fuel pressure inside the common rail and sends the pressure signal to the ECU. The ECU continuously compares the measured pressure with the target pressure value. If the ECU detects that the rail pressure is higher than required, it reduces pressure by adjusting the metering valve to limit fuel flow into the high pressure pump. This is the primary method of pressure control. In addition to the pressure sensor, the common rail is also equipped with a pressure relief valve. This valve acts as a mechanical safety device. When the fuel pressure exceeds the mechanical limit set by the valve spring, the valve opens and releases fuel to the return line, thereby reducing pressure in the common rail. There is also a secondary safety valve, sometimes referred to as pressure limiting or pressure emergency valve. This valve serves a backup protection device If the pressure sensor, metering valve, or ECU fails, this safety valve prevents excessive pressure from damaging the high pressure fuel lines or injector by releasing fuel to the return line. From the common rail, fuel is distributed to the fuel injector. The main function of injectors is to atomize fuel and spray it into the combustion chamber at the correct timing and quantity. Inside the injector, fuel enters through the inlet port and remains in a standby condition. This is because high fuel pressure acts on the injector needle from below, while pressure from above, assisted by the needle spring, keeps the needle closed. As long as the pressure above the needle is greater, the injector nozzle remains closed and no fuel injected. The injector needle lifts only when the solenoid coil inside the injector receives an electrical signal from ECU. When energized, the solenoid pulls the armature, which opens the control valve above the needle. This allows high-pressure fuel to leak into return line, reducing pressure above the needle. Once the pressure above the needle drops, the pressure from below becomes dominant, allowing the needle to lift. At this moment, fuel is sprayed through the injector nozzle into the combustion chamber in a finely atomized form. Injection timing and duration are precisely controlled by the ECU. To determine the correct injection timing, the ECU relies on input from the crankshaft position sensor and from camshaft position sensor. These sensors work together to identify the exact position of the piston and determine which cylinder is in the compression stroke. Based on this sensor signal, the ECU decides when to activate each injector and how long the injector should remain open, ensuring accurate fuel delivery for optimal combustion. Okay, now we continue with the intake and exhaust or air system. The intake and exhaust system is responsible for supplying clean air to the engine for combustion and for discharging exhaust gases safely and efficiently to the atmosphere. Proper airflow is essential for achieving complete combustion, optimal engine performance, fuel efficiency, and emission control. The intake process begins at the air intake inlet, where the ambient air is drawn into the system. Before entering the engine, the air must be cleaned to remove dust, dirt, and other contaminants that could cause abrasive wear to engine components. At first, passes through the air filter. The air filter removes solid particles from the incoming air. In Weichai engines, the air filter is typically a dry type filter with a paper or synthetic filter element. Some applications may also use a pre-cleaner, which remove larger particles and extend the service life of the main air filter. After passing through the air filter, clean air flows through the intake ducting toward the turbocharging system. The intake ducts are designed to minimize airflow restriction and ensure a smooth flow of air into the engine. The cleaned air then enters the turbocharger compressor. The turbocharger consists of two main sections, the compressor side and the turbine side, connected by a common shaft. On the compressor side, incoming air is compressed by the rotating compressor wheel. Compressing the air increases its density, allowing a greater mass of air to enter the engine cylinder. As air is compressed, its temperature rises. Hot intake air reduces air density and can negatively affect combustion efficiency. To address this, compressed air is directed to the intercooler. The intercooler functions as a heat exchanger that cools the compressed intake air before it enters the engine. The intercooler may be air-to-air or air-to-liquid, depending on engine configuration. By reducing intake air temperature, the intercooler increases air density, improves combustion efficiency, and reduces the risk of engine knocking. After leaving the intercooler, cooled and compressed air flow through the intake manifold. The intake manifold distributes air evenly to each cylinder. Proper intake manifold design ensure balanced airflow, allowing each cylinder to receive an equal amount of air for uniform combustion. Inside the cylinder, intake airs enter through the intake valve. The opening and closing of the intake valve are controlled by the camshaft through the valve train mechanism. Precise valve timing ensures that the correct amount of air enters the cylinder during the intake stroke. Once inside the cylinder, the intake air mixes with the fuel injected by the fuel system. This air-fuel mixture is then compressed and ignite, producing power during the combustion process. After combustion, the burned gas must be removed from the cylinder. This process begins when the exhaust valve opens. Exhaust valve allow high temperature, high pressure exhaust gases to exit the cylinder. Exhaust gases flow from the exhaust valve into the exhaust manifold. The exhaust manifold collects the exhaust gases from all cylinders and direct them toward the turbocharger turbine. The exhaust gas energy is used to drive the turbocharger turbine wheel. As the exhaust gases pass through the turbine, they causes the turbine wheel to rotate at very high speed. This rotation drives the compressor wheel on the intake side, creating the boost pressure required for improved engine performance. After passing through the turbocharger turbine, exhaust gases continue flowing through the exhaust piping. Depending on the engine application and emission requirement, exhaust gases may pass through additional components such as a muffler, silencer, or aftertreatment system. The muffler or silencer reduces exhaust noise by dissipating sound energy. In engines equipped with emission control system, exhaust gases may pass through devices such as diesel oxidation catalyst, diesel particulate filter, or selective catalytic reduction to reduce harmful emission. Finally, treated exhaust gases are discharged safely to the atmosphere through the exhaust outlet. Now we continue with the cooling system. The cooling system is responsible for maintaining the engine operating temperature within a safe and efficient range. During engine operation, combustion generates a large amount of heat. If this heat is not properly controlled, it can cause overheating, loss of engine efficiency, accelerated wear, and severe engine damage. The cooling system removes excess heat from the engine and transfers it to the surrounding environment. The cooling process begins at the radiator, which functions as heat exchanger. The radiator dissipates heat from the engine coolant to the ambient air. Hot coolant enters the radiator through the upper tank and flows through multiple small tubes. As air passes through the radiator fins, heat is transferred from the coolant to the air, reducing the coolant temperature before it returns to engine. Coolant circulation is driven by the water pump. The water pump is mechanically driven by the engine, usually through a belt or gear mechanism. Its function is to continuously circulate coolant through the engine cooling passage, radiator, and auxiliary cooling component. Without sufficient coolant flow, heat would accumulate rapidly in the engine. From the radiator outlet, cooled coolant flow toward the water pump inlet. The water pump then forces the coolant into the engine coolant passage, also known as water jacket. These passages are cast into the engine block and cylinder head and surround high temperature components such as the cylinder liner, combustion chamber, and exhaust valve. As coolant flow through the water jacket in the cylinder block, it absorbs heat from the cylinder walls and liner. This heat transfer helps maintain proper cylinder temperature, ensuring stable combustion and preventing thermal deformation of engine component. After passing through the cylinder block, coolant flow toward into the cylinder head cooling passage in the cylinder head. In the cylinder head, coolant absorb heat from critical components such as the combustion chamber roof, injector areas, exhaust port, and valve seat. These areas experience extremely high temperature and therefore require efficient cooling. Coolant flow through the engine is regulated by the thermostat. The thermostat is the temperature-sensitive valve installed in the coolant outlet housing. When the engine is cold, the thermostat remains closed, preventing coolant from flowing to the radiator. This allows the engine to warm up quickly and reach its optimal operating temperature. Once the coolant temperature reaches the thermostat opening temperature, the thermostat gradually opens. This allows hot coolant to flow from the engine to the radiator for cooling. The thermostat continuously adjusts its opening position to maintain a stable engine operating temperature under varying load and ambient condition. In addition to the main coolant flow, part of the coolant is directed to the heater circuit or auxiliary cooling circuit, depending on the engine configuration. This circuit ensures uniform temperature distribution throughout the engine and prevent localized overheating. This cooling system also includes a cooling fan, which increases airflow through the radiator. The fan may be mechanically driven or electronically controlled. At low vehicle speed or high engine load, airflow through the radiator is insufficient, so the fan assists in removing heat from the coolant. The fan operation. Coolant temperature is monitored by a coolant temperature sensor, typically installed near the thermostat housing or cylinder head. The sensor converts the temperature data into an electrical signal and sends it to the ECU. The ECU uses this information to control fan operation. To accommodate coolant expansion due to temperature change, the cooling system is equipped with an expansion tank or reservoir tank. As coolant temperature rises, coolant volume increases and excess coolant flow into the expansion tank. When the engine cools down, coolant is drawn back into the system, maintaining a constant coolant level and preventing air entry. The cooling system operates as a closed-loop system, meaning coolant continuously circulates between the engine, radiator, and auxiliary component without being consumed. The coolant mixture typically consists of water and antifreeze, which increase boiling point, lower freezing point, and provides corrosion protection for internal engine component. Now, we move on to the lubrication system. The lubrication system is the system that regulates the flow, pressure, and temperature of lubricating oil so that all engine components requiring lubrication can operate properly and with minimal wear. The process starts from the oil pan, which serves as the oil reservoir and stores the engine lubricating oil. From the oil pan, oil is first drawn through the strainer. The strainer functions as a coarse filter to prevent large debris or contaminant from entering the lubrication system. After passing through the strainer, the oil is drawn by the oil pump. The oil pump used in Weichai engine is typically a gear-type pump, driven mechanically by the engine. The oil pump generates the pressure required to circulate oil throughout the lubrication system. From the oil pump, the oil flow is divided into two main paths. The first path leads to the bypass oil filter. This filter continuously filters a portion of the oil and then returns it directly to the oil pan. In many Weichai engine, especially M-series engine, a centrifugal oil filter is used in this bypass circuit. The centrifugal filter removes fine contaminants from the oil using centrifugal force, improving oil cleanliness without restricting the main oil flow. The second path leads upward toward the full flow oil filter. The full flow oil filter is responsible for filtering all oil before it reaches engine components that require lubrication. This filter removes smaller particles that could cause wear or damage to engine component. Before entering the lubricated component, the oil usually passes through an oil cooler. The oil cooler reduces oil temperature by transferring heat from the oil to the coolant. High oil temperature can reduce lubrication effectiveness, so cooling the oil is critical for maintaining engine reliability. After passing through the oil cooler, the oil flows through oil pressure and oil temperature sensors. These sensors convert pressure and temperature value into electrical signal. The pressure signal is generated by a pressure sensing element, while the temperature signal is generated by a thermistor. Both signals are sent to the ECU. The ECU monitor oil pressure and temperature continuously. If oil pressure drops below a safe limit or oil temperature becomes too high, the ECU can trigger warning, alarm, or protective action such as engine derating or shutdown to prevent severe engine damage. From the sensor section, oil enters the main oil gallery. The oil gallery is the primary distribution channel that delivers lubricating oil to various engine components. One branch of the oil gallery supply oil to the turbocharger. The turbocharger shaft rotates at extremely high speeds, often reaching up to 150,000 RPM, and therefore requires a constant supply of clean, pressurized oil for lubrication and cooling of the shaft and bearing. Another branch supply oil to the crankshaft lubrication. Oil is delivered first to the main bearing of the crankshaft. From the main bearing, oil flows through internal oil passage within the crankshaft to lubricate the crankpin journal, which supports the connecting rods. From the crankpin journal, oil continue upward through oil passage in the connecting rod to lubricate the piston pins. This ensures smooth movement between the piston and the connecting rod under high load and high temperature condition. In addition to lubricating the rotating assembly, Oil is also supplied to the valve train mechanism. Oil flow from the cylinder block through the dedicated passage into the cylinder head. Inside the cylinder head, oil is distributed to the rocker arm shaft, lubricating the movement of the rocker arm. Oil also flow to lubricate the valve spring, valve stem, and other components of the valve mechanism. At the front section of the valve train, oil lubricates the component associated with valve actuation, while at the rear section, oil flow to lubricate the push rod and cam followers. Proper lubrication of these components is essential to ensure accurate valve timing and to minimize wear. After lubricating all engine components, the oil drains back to the oil pan by gravity, completing the lubrication cycle. The oil then remains in the oil pan until it is circulated again by the oil pump. Now we continue with the electric system of the engine. The electric system is responsible for supplying electrical power to the engine, controlling engine operation, monitoring engine parameter, and supporting engine starting and protection function. In modern Weichai engine, the electric system is closely integrated with electronic control system to ensure reliable and efficient engine operation. The electric system begins with the battery. The battery serves as the primary source of electrical energy when the engine is not running. It supplies power for engine starting, control unit, sensor, and auxiliary electrical component. The battery typically provides 12 volt to or 24 volt DC, depending on the engine and application. Electrical power from the battery is distributed through the main power cable and fuses. Fuses protect the electrical circuit from overload and short circuit by interrupting current flow when abnormal conditions occur. Engine starting is achieved through the starter motor. When the start switch is activated, electrical current flow from the battery to the starter motor via a starter relay or starter solenoid. The starter motor converts electrical energy into mechanical energy and rotates the engine crankshaft until the engine reaches a speed sufficient for combustion to occur. Once the engine starts and runs under its own power, the starter motor is disengaged. At this point, electrical power is supplied by the alternator. The alternator is driven mechanically by the engine, usually through a belt or gear system. Its function is to generate electrical energy and recharge the battery while the engine is running. The alternator produces alternating current, which is converted to direct current by internal rectifier. The alternator output voltage is regulated by voltage regulator. The regulator maintains a stable charging voltage to prevent battery overcharging or undercharging. Stable voltage is essential. And electrical power generated by the alternator is distributed to various engine systems through the wiring harness. The wiring harness consists of multiple insulated wires organized and protected to ensure safe and reliable electrical connection. Modern Weichai engine use electronic control unit as the core of the electric system. The ECU receives electrical signal from various sensors, process the data, and send control signal to actuator. Based on this signal, the ECU manages fuel injection, engine speed, protection function, and overall engine performance. Key sensors in the electric system include the engine speed sensor, coolant temperature sensor, oil pressure sensor, air temperature sensor, intake temperature sensor, boost pressure sensor. These sensors convert physical parameter into electrical signal and transmit them into the ECU for real-time monitoring. The electric system also includes various actuator. Actuator receive control signal from the ECU and perform mechanical action. Example include the fuel control actuator, electronic governor actuator, shut-off solenoid. And for this ECU, The output or the actuator is common rail pressure sensor, and here is injector. For the sensor, which is boost temperature and pressure sensor, coolant temperature sensor, oil temperature and pressure sensor, it has in left and right side of the engine, because the engine here is V engine. For engine safety, the electric system support alarm and protection function. When abnormal conditions such as low oil pressure, high coolant temperature, or overspeed are detected, the ECU can activate warning lamps, audible alarm, or initiate protective action such as power derating or automatic engine shutdown. The electric system is also connected to the control panel or display unit. In main control panel, the control panel provides real-time information on engine operating parameters such as engine speed, voltage, current, oil pressure, and oil temperature. It also allows operator to start, stop, and monitor the engine. Now we move to the generator section. Okay, this part discusses the generator system used in Weichai gensets, especially in WPG 1250. The excitation system used here is AREP, or how to read this, I don't know, which mean auxiliary winding excitation system. The first component is this coupling, which connect the rotating part of the engine, namely the flywheel, to the rotating part of the generator, which is the rotor. This coupling ensures that mechanical rotation from the engine is transmitted directly to the generator rotor. Next is the adapter. While the coupling connects rotating part, the adapter connects stationary part. It connects the engine block to the generator housing, ensure alignment and structural integrity between the engine and the generator. There is also a cooling fan which circulates air from the rear bottom section toward the front left and right side of the generator. This airflow is used to cool the generator winding and internal component, preventing overheating during operation. Because this generator uses the AREP system, it consists of two generators internally. First is the main generator. Second is exciter generator. We will discuss the main generator first. In the main generator, there are typically 4 magnetic poles. In some design, there may be 2 poles, but generally, especially in our region, 4 poles are used. This means there are 2 north pole and 2 south pole. The main rotor functions as a magnetic field coil that produces the magnetic field required for electricity generation. The armature winding is located in the main stator. This is where electrical energy is generated. The output of this generator type is 3-phase AC, typically with a maximum voltage of 400 volts. From the main stator, the electrical output is routed to the output terminal, which supply power to the external electrical system or load. Now we move to the exciter generator. The function of exciter generator is to supply excitation voltage to the main rotor. The main rotor requires direct current to create a stable and controllable magnetic field. This DC current is supplied through a rotating rectifier. The rotating rectifier converts 3-phase AC electricity into DC electricity. Where does this 3-phase AC come from? It comes from the exciter's rotor. In the exciter system, the exciter rotor contains the armature winding. The exciter stator contains the field winding. The exciter stator receives DC power from the AVR or automatic voltage regulator. This DC current creates a magnetic field in the exciter stator. When the exciter rotor rotates within this magnetic field, it generates three-phase AC voltage in the exciter rotor winding. This AC voltage is then rectified by the rotating rectifier and supplied as DC to the main rotor. Now let us explain we have AVR here. This is for regulate the voltage so that the voltage is stable in any load. Okay, then now let us explain the working principle step by step. Before the generator starts, the rotor is not rotating yet. At this stage, there is residual magnetism present in the exciter stator. In some generator designs, small permanent magnets are installed in the exciter stator to ensure this residual magnetism. However, in Leroy Somer generator used in Weichai gensets, no permanent magnets are installed. Therefore, residual magnetism becomes a very important factor in the initial voltage build-up. If residual magnetism is lost, the generator will not be able to generate electricity. When the engine starts running, like this, the rotor begins to rotate. There are three essential elements required for electricity generation. First is magnetic field from residual magnetism. Number two is conductor in exciter rotor. Relative motion between the conductor and the magnetic field because the rotor is rotated. As the rotor rotates, three-phase AC voltage is generated in the exciter rotor. This voltage flow into the rotating rectifier where it is converted into DC voltage. This DC voltage is then supplied to the main rotor, creating a magnetic field in the main rotor. As the magnetic field in the main rotor strengthens, it is cut by the winding in the main stator, causing voltage to be induced in the main stator winding. Inside the main stator, there are actually two types of winding. Number one is main output winding, which produce three-phase output voltage for the load. And number two is auxiliary winding, which supplies power to the AVR. The voltage from the auxiliary winding is sent to the AVR as a the voltage from the auxiliary winding is sent to the AVR as a power supply. And the output from the main stator or main winding is act like a sensing voltage. In some generator design, a transformer is installed between the terminal and the AVR to reduce the sensing voltage to a suitable level for the AVR. Okay, then the AVR output is DC voltage, which is sent to the exciter stator. Once the AVR receives power from the auxiliary winding, it immediately begins regulating the excitation current. Initially, excitation relies only on residual magnetism. However, once the AVR starts supplying DC current to the exciter rotor, to the exciter stator, the magnetic field in the exciter stator becomes stronger. This caused the voltage generated in the exciter rotor increased. As a result, the DC current supplied to the main rotor also increased. When the magnetic field in the main rotor increased, like this, the voltage induced in the main stator are also increased. This includes both the output voltage supplied to the load and the sensing voltage supply to the AVR. As the output voltage rises, the AVR continuously monitors the sensing voltage. If the sensed voltage is lower than the AVR set point, the AVR increases its output current to the exciter stator. For example, if the AVR is set to supply 8 volt DC and the output voltage is still low, the AVR will increase the excitation current by increasing the excitation voltage. Once the sense voltage reaches the set point, the AVR stabilizes its output. For instance, it will maintain a constant voltage to exciter stator. When a load is applied to the generator, the output voltage tends to drop. The AVR detects this voltage drop and respond by increasing the excitation current. The excitation voltage may increase from 8 volts to 12 volts, 15 volts, or even up to 24 volts, depending on the load applied. Conversely, when the load is removed, the output voltage rises. The AVR then reduces the excitation voltage accordingly, for example, from 12 volts back down to 8 volts to maintain a stable output voltage. So, friends, I think that's all for the introduction to Weichai generator. I hope it is useful. If you have any question, please ask in the comment column. See you in the next video.